This week on BlackBusters Remixed.
Quite frequently. And it literally was like, don't answer the door. Don't let nobody in this house. I'll be back. Right? Like, I remember one time I was home by myself, and I was used to being home by myself. But I felt like my mom had been gone a little bit too long. Right? Just a little too long. And I started to get nervous, and I ended up calling the police and saying like that my mom isn't home. And I remember like while I was on the phone with the police, she walked in, and then I was able to say like, oh no, here she is. She's here. And when I told my mom, I called the police on her for the ass whooping I got. like that kind of shit. Yeah. Like perfect. like perfect.
Because he has manners. He still picked up his manners from his dad. It's not like he's coming over there trying to be, cool. Like he knows how to make.
Not.
BlackBusters.
Well, what's up? What's up? Welcome once again to BlackBusters Remixed. I am your host, Tone, and I'm joined here today by my co-host,
Jay the Fade.
Jay the Fade. She has been my partner in crime. We go back and forth. One episode, I'm Batman, she's Robin, then I'm Robin, and she's Batman.
You picked the best one to be Batman on this week.
Listen, we got ourselves a good one. If you noticed, I'm in my holiday flannel. Because today we are remixing Home Alone. We're attempting to remix Home Alone. If you've been alive for like the last 8, 9, 10 years, there's no way you've missed this movie. It's out every holiday season. Let me give you the details. Home Alone, directed by Chris Columbus, written by the great and legendary John Hughes, had a budget. Check this number out. Had a budget of $18 million. It went on to do $476.7 million at the box office. That's a legit blockbuster. Just huge numbers. In terms of cast, we've got Macaulay Culkin as Kevin. We've got Joe Pesci as Harry, Daniel Stern as Marv. We've got Catherine O'Hara as Kate. As well as a lot of other kind of notable character actors. We don't have to spend a lot of time on the plot. You know the plot. The plot is basically the title of the movie, Home Alone. Kevin and his family is going on a trip to Paris. Kevin's daddy is paying for everybody. We got to talk about that house. We got to talk about all the first class tickets. But in the night before, Kevin's being a brat and he's being rude, and he's being a little bit of an ass. He says, "I wish you guys would disappear." The next morning, he wakes up. His family has all scrambled out and dashed to the airport. They've left Kevin behind, and Kevin is now home alone. And the story kind of goes from him like being very scared of being home alone to being sort of comfortable with home alone. And while Kevin is home alone, we've got bandits. We've got the leaky bandits, I think they're called. And that is where Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern come in, and they are basically robbing all the houses on the block while people are going for Christmas. They really want to rob Kevin's house. Kevin is on to them. We get this iconic, the last 15 minutes of the movie, the stunts, the ouches, the hits, all take a hit. Ultimately, Kevin wakes up on Christmas morning, wishing his family was back. His mom meets him, and the rest of the family shows up, and that is Home Alone. Jay, give me your early takes, your current takes on Home Alone.
I love this movie. I think it's so sweet. It's one of those movies that you watch every holiday season if you have a soul. I can't speak for those of you without one. But for those of us with a soul, this is on the playlist every single year. I love the writing of this film. I think they make him such a little like, he's such a mean little kid. They really play up like he's a little like, and I hate to put it that way because he's 8 years old at the end of the day. He just has a lot of personality. He's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but ultimately who wasn't? What little boy was not a pain in the ass at 8 years old that didn't grow up to be a number of things that you probably don't want to be, you know? But I really, really enjoy it. I think it's a classic. And I think overall, like, there are some moments where I think they dropped the ball, like the phones being down after the storm and calling and trying to get in touch with the neighbors and their phones don't work. But little Kev can order a pizza, you know?
I never even thought of that. The phones are supposedly down, but Kevin orders a pizza. Damn. Yeah, you swing for the fences already. Perfect.
There's moments like that, but I think it's still, it adds to the comedy of it. And I think this is one of the perfect films to remix, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much room for, What do you think, though?
I mean, I'm with you. Like, I probably have this movie committed to memory. Like, I've watched it so many times. And then my little brothers, like, when they discovered it, they watched it so many times. So, like, I feel like this movie was just on all the time in my childhood. And then it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, if you're trimming the tree or you're putting up decorations or you're wrapping presents, like, throw on Home Alone, right? Like, you know, throw on Home Alone. And I think it's because it's got all those great charms. And Macaulay Culkin was just a beast of a little actor in this movie. I mean, his work as Kevin makes the whole thing work, right? He's a believable Home Alone. Right.
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't think this film would have worked with anyone other than him at that time.
Yeah.
Like, I think they casted perfectly with Macaulay Culkin.
Mm-hmm. And he was just like, you know, he was doing things like from the you know, you singing the I'm dreaming, you know, and the you know, from you know, from the aftershave, like just these iconic moments. And I think the scenario that Kevin finds himself in is one that like both parents and kids can relate to, right? I think parents can relate to the dread of leaving their kid alone. And I think like kids always imagine what would it be like if I was home alone with no one there. And so that's kind of, you know, what it is. So,
you know what's funny? I hate to make this joke, but when you consider the Black reimagining or remix of a film like this, it's very much giving, well, we was home all the time. You know, it's very much giving, don't go to that door.
Yes.
Don't look through that little peephole. If I don't knock, I got a key. So sit your ass down in the living room. I'll be back when I'm back. Like, I was home alone many times. So this movie was very unrealistic to me. I was like, oh, I've had this already numerous times. And I don't touch nothing because I'll get my ass whooped.
That's crazy. The accuracy of it all, right? Like we were home alone quite frequently. And it literally was like, don't answer the door. Don't let nobody in this house. I'll be back. Right. Like, you know, I remember one time I was home by myself and I was used to being home by myself, but I felt like my mom had been gone a little bit too long. Right. Just a little too long. And I started to get nervous and I ended up calling the police and saying like that my mom isn't home. And I remember like while I was on the phone with the police, she walked in and then I was able to say like, oh no, here she is. She's here. And when I told my mom, I called the police on her for the ass whooping I got, like for calling the police for her dereliction of in presence. But yeah, that's how frequent, you know, we were home by ourselves all the time. Yeah. So in order to remix this movie, you kind of have to raise the stakes besides just simply like being at home. So let's get into it. I think if we ask the question, can this movie be remixed? I think the answer is yeah, but. And so what would you say is the yeah, but in terms of remixing Home Alone?
Well, It's a number of things that I would say. If you think about our act one, right, the setup, we see that he has this huge family. The McCallister household is chaotic.
Yes.
You know, they're preparing for their trip, their vacation to, it was Paris, right?
They're going to Paris. Yeah.
And Kevin the entire time feels very overlooked. He's extremely frustrated because he's being teased by his older brother. He's being ignored by his parents. He's having these outbursts and fighting over pizza. And, you know, ultimately, he just wishes that his family would disappear. He's over it. He's like, y'all are a lot. And you know what? I think in a remix capacity, that's perfect because what child growing up in a large Black household is not ready for their entire family to disappear?
Spot on.
I want all of you niggas out of here. Leave. Like,
right.
Please.
Right.
The peace I knew as a child when my mom left for a couple hours, oh my gosh, I would give anything to feel that peace again. Now I have it now in my own home, but as a kid?
Yes. Like when you're the little guy, you can't control what's on the stereo. You can't control what's on the TV. You don't get a turn on the sticks, right? Like, you know, like you're just the odd man out. And if you're not the baby of the family, because see, Kevin wasn't the baby of the family, right? He wasn't the one that everybody loves and coddles to. So nobody was really looking out for him. So I think, when you remix this movie, I think it's upper middle class, just like the McCallisters were. I think it's a lot of siblings, just like the McCallisters, you know, were. I put a lot of people in the house because it's the number of people in the house that make accidentally not counting Kevin possible. If it's just Kevin and his two siblings, then there's no way they leave the house without Kevin being there. I think the fact that it was like fucking 15 niggas running through the airport trying to get to the terminal, and like no one ever stopped and was like, is Kevin there? Because they were all moving so fast. So I think the sheer number of people made leaving Kevin possible. I think that same thing has to happen, or it has to be a really clever reason why they got all the way to the airport. You know, because, you know, I totally agree. I couldn't leave my house without my two kids, even on accident, you know, so it has to be something like that.
Has to be a huge family. But might I wager, instead of a upper middle class family or even a middle class family, I think, me personally, growing up in Detroit, they should be, you know, I don't think they got money like that.
Okay, I love it. I love it.
And that's not because people don't mince my words. I'm not saying people in Detroit be poor. I'm just saying I grew up poor in Detroit. And granted, there were moments where we had certain things. We had access to certain things. My mom did her best. My father did his best. But ultimately, that house is loud. That house is messy. He has cousins, aunties, uncles, siblings, all up and through shouting at each other, and he's ready to get rid of them. I think that the mom is stretched thin, that she is excited for a vacation because she's balancing packing and money concerns. And okay, what are we cooking once we get where we're going? You know, maybe they're not even necessarily going on a vacation. Maybe they're just going out of state. Maybe they're driving. And they drive all the way to Atlanta thinking he's in the back in one of the trucks with one of the family members somewhere. They don't even necessarily have to go on a plane. Everyone's driving to go to grandma's house.
Yeah.
And then they get there.
And they realize they done left Kevin.
They left Kevin, the one who was getting on everybody's last nerve, Kevin.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's good. I think you could do it. Here's why I like the stakes. Like I think if we don't match the McCallisters and don't make them upper middle class, we make them working class people. And they still could be middle class. Or working class. Yeah. And like they win a family vacation by being like caller number 21. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and that's why they have the vacation. Because they was caller number 21, and you put that in the movie. Oh my God, I'm caller number 21. And you get a trip to Jamaica or whatever. I like putting them out of reach because I want to put Kevin I want to put Kevin more than 8 hours away. More than a turnaround trip, right? Like I need Kevin to be by himself. So I think the family wins a vacation. That's why everybody's out of town. It's a bunch of them going. They're late. They don't travel like that. So they don't, they don't normally travel. So it's a big deal, and they've overpacked and they're underpacked, and and they don't, they don't know how it all works. The thing that we have to figure out is then what are the stakes for Kevin? Because if they're working class, I don't see the same kind of scenario where Kevin defends the big house in our movie like he does in the original movie. But I could see a scenario where maybe somebody comes in and robs something very important to Kevin's mom or dad, and Kevin has to get it back. Right. So instead of Kevin being home alone in the house, it's almost like Kevin being home alone in the real world. So how like in Home Alone, we have those scenes where, Kevin's at the supermarket and Kevin's at the church and he's out kind of doing real world stuff. And our movie, like our Kevin has to like spends the majority of the time outside of the house trying to get to the people that stole his grandma's ring and stuff like that. So like as a result, like he has to drive for the first time, or he has to like pretend to be somebody calling a receptionist to get the receptionist away. Like it's all these shenanigans of him having to act like a grown up in order to continue to like level up and get closer and closer to his destination. Other than that, you just keep Kevin in the house. But I think that's a good twist, because everybody has already seen Kevin in the house protecting the family against, we've seen that movie. And so if you do it exactly like that, then it's just a rehash. But if you put Kevin out in the streets by himself, but having to like navigate it with the skills that he knows and the kid language and his kid understanding of the world, but he's really smart and able to do it, that could be pretty fun.
Yeah. And even if we consider the element of, instead of Kevin being 8, being a preteen, and that really changes the degree to which he can really navigate outside of the home. I think that it felt very dangerous in moments where Kevin was outside of the home. And that was for good reason, like we wanted to feel the same level of anxiety. And I'm sure that the writers were intentional and the director was intentional about this as well in the film, of making every parent in that audience, whatever theater they were at when they watched Home Alone, like, oh my God, if that was my kid, I don't know. I couldn't breathe, like I'm not even a parent. I'm not a parent yet, but you have children. How would you feel if you're halfway to Atlanta in this reimagined version, right?
Yeah.
And you let's say you're on I love the idea of a free trip though. I'm not going to hold you there. Like I love the high stakes of that. I love the fun and games of that. Because we don't really see them in Paris getting into much. I could also see it being a megabus that they can't turn around, because it's 50, 60 other people on board.
Yes.
So they're either going to have to figure it out and get back on their own. I love the idea of seeing like, well, does all the family turn around and go back for Kevin? Or do they go to Atlanta and somebody, does the mom, like, what does that look like?
That's so cool. I like the fact that they're on a megabus that can't turn around. So now the family gets off because they've got to go back home for Kevin. But we've already established that they don't have money like that. So now they got to get from Atlanta to Detroit, and it's like the shenanigans that they run into, like trying to get back home. So we've got shenanigans on both ends. We've got Kevin having his shenanigans out in the streets, and we got the family having their shenanigans trying to get back home. Love it. I think that makes sense. I think that's perfect sense. The other thing that I think about is if Kevin is a preteen or he's younger, I just think about what's the shenanigan. In the original Home Alone, the big thing is protecting the house from the wet bandits, right? And he does a great job of that. He sets all the traps and stuff like that. So a part of me feels like the remixed version has to have that, because that's almost kind of like canon to the franchise, right? Like even if it isn't as key as it was in the original movie, we've got to put our Kevin in a situation to defend something, right? Either to like defend the house or to defend the school or the place where his dad works or his dad's garage or something like that. Like now that starts to make sense. What you got?
Okay, this is where I get in my writing bag, right? Because as you're naming all of these things, what came to mind for me for this film, if we were to make him a little bit older, if Kevin has gone now from 8 years old to a preteen, I imagine that maybe there's a prized possession, right? Like you said, maybe his father has a really nice car. And the kids in the neighborhood, the real, like the down bad kids, the ones who's on the corner doing whatever they doing on a daily basis, who ain't got no business outside and no parent watching them, have their eyes on this Oldsmobile, whatever type of car it is, you know, they've been waiting for this family to get the, you know, and maybe they know, like they saw them packing them bags and going on vacation. And maybe in the beginning we mentioned in Act 1, hey, it's been some robberies in the neighborhood. And maybe the dad said he was going to install some cameras. He was going to do the rings and set everything up to protect the house and blah, 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 blah. And maybe the wife truly believes him. And maybe as they're walking out the door, we see that little cord dangling because he ain't finished the job. But he not thinking nothing really
I love it.
happen.
I love it.
You know? And now these kids, they plotting. Like they're excited. We're going to get our hands on this. I don't know how much those cars are worth sometimes. What, 70, 80,000?
Yeah.
Depending.
Yeah.
You know, and now he has to defend this car, this family's, like he doesn't want to let it go. The dad doesn't want to let this car go. It's the most valuable thing he owns. And they out here, you know, dealing with what they deal with. And maybe financial concerns aside, the family has chosen to keep this car that he inherited from whoever he inherited.
I love it. I love it. Like now, like I would say that Kevin's dad like owns a garage, a repair garage, right? And at the garage, he stores that 64 Mustang or that, you know, that whatever it is. And that's his pride and joy. And everybody shows up and goes, man, when you going to sell that thing? You know what I mean? Like, you know, man, I'm never going to sell it. You know what I mean? I got this car from my daddy and one day I'm going to give this car to my son. Right. You know, and that's the whole vibe there. And then we've got like our Kevin, who's about 12 years old. And then we've got like some 17-year-olds who, you know, who come to the garage and you could tell they're eyeballing and almost everybody in the neighborhood knows that the McWilliams or the Williams, whatever their last name is, not McCallisters, everybody knows that they're going out of town. And so now our Kevin has to defend the garage against the teens that are going to make the move to steal the car now that they know the family is out. And I think your whole thing about, you know, I'll get to it, I'll set up the ring and it being untangled, I think that's 100% the right setup. And I think that the garage is a great setting different from the house because there are other things that you can do there without just like hitting people with wrenches and stuff like that. I think it sets up the exact same way, which is dope. I think what could also be kind of cool and an interesting wrinkle in this is that instead of Kevin being by himself, like he could have like a little crew of underlings, right? You know, who can help him, like, you know, almost kind of like the Stranger Things crew. Right? Like, you know, just like 4 people that know what's up. The only thing the tripwire that just messed me up is what year is it in this movie?
Okay. Well, you know me. I love the 90s.
Yeah.
Even the early 2000s, I think would be excellent. We don't see a lot of like, aside from the content, obviously, that was created during the early 2000s and present day, you know, we don't have anything that people don't often go back from now to do early 2000s types of stuff. So I wouldn't mind the 90s. I wouldn't mind the early 2000s. And I wouldn't really necessarily mind present day, especially because we can really like modernize the storytelling of it. Like, that's what I would appreciate.
So that's what works because in the first one, Kevin is completely cut off from his family, right? In the second one, like there could be contact. Don't go no, like the way we were raised. Kevin, we left you. We are in Atlanta. We are coming back. Just stay in the house. Keep the door locked. We will be there in a day or two. Right. So now now it's not the same. Oh my God, where's Kevin? Nobody has access to Kevin. Now Kevin's family knows where he is. Kevin knows where his family is. And all he has to do is just kind of stay put until they get back. Oh, them fools are trying to steal my daddy's car. Right. And so now Kevin has he's got opposition, he's got a goal, he's got an objective, and it's really about like, you know, our family who goes through tremendous adversity to be together on Christmas Day. And you know, and you could do something earlier in the movie where maybe the dad says like, you know, Kevin, you're so irresponsible. You know, I asked you
Let's
to take
talk
care
about
of
that.
Right. Okay, give it.
Because in Act 1, this is what I'm thinking, right? Act 1, we open on the chaos. We see the family, we see the household, we see how everybody acts, how everybody, you know, throws down. Like it's a lot going on. It's a lot of siblings. It's a lot of cousins. It's a lot of people everywhere, all over the place. And then we have to see this dad go and lock down the shop. And who wants to go with him other than Kevin? So, of course, he brings Kevin along. They're at the shop, and they're checking out the Oldsmobile, and they sit in it. And he says, when are you going to let me drive it? Like, I want to try to drive. Like, when are you going to teach me how to drive? Well, I ain't teaching you how to drive in this. You lost your mind. You better get in this Honda. Okay, but Dad, like, please, like, let me. I can do it. I can't even trust you to take out the trash, and you want me to let you drive my most prized possession? Yep. This was passed down through generations. I'm not letting you mess this thing up because you want to have fun. No, you know. And now we have this thing on our radar. We know that this boy want to drive this car. And what else would the first thing he does be if his father has left that key behind?
Drive the car.
Try to make his way to that car. What else would he do? But what happens though when the guys on the block see this little nigga walking up to the shop and going in by himself?
Yes.
That don't make a lot of sense.
Yes. Oh, that's great. That's great. And our Kevin could even drive the car. And that's how everybody knows. That's how everybody knows that he's home alone. The fact that he's driving that car. And what's great is you could have more so than just your two protagonists. You could have like half a dozen just shady people in the neighborhood that like want to get access to that car. And now they know that like he's home alone and that the car is available, and Kevin has to protect the garage for the car.
Yes.
That's dope. That like this premise 100% makes sense. And what's great is that how Kevin can foil all the attempted burglars in different ways, right? Like, one might get a wrench to the face, but the other never even makes it up the driveway, right? Like, and like just, and it's almost like a video game where like you keep having big bads, you keep defeating like lower levels till you get to the upper level. And it's perfect. And in this, Kevin, because like a part of like Kevin's a slacker. Like Kevin's not responsible. Kevin, doesn't do his chores. And his father is a hardworking man who has never taken a day off because he's been so tied to responsibility. And maybe on the flip side, his father learns to enjoy life a little bit and have a little bit of fun, maybe on the road trying to get back to Kevin. So by the time they both meet, both men are different, right? Like this experience has made Kevin appreciate responsibility and the things that his dad values, and maybe the things that like his dad learned on the road trying to get back helped him appreciate the unique qualities of Kevin. And so our movie is different. Whereas the original focused on the mother and the son, our kind of like working idea focuses on the father and the son, which I think is also a good enough tweak for this movie to make it a little different.
And it's
I think it
representative
works.
of the importance. Oh, for sure it works. And that, what you just said, it's representative of the importance of Black men in their sons' lives, their sons and daughters, but in particular in this context, in their sons' lives. Like, that is a very meaningful element of someone's growth, you know? And I think what we're missing here in that, like, we have our setup. The setup is perfect. But when we get into that act 2 and we're getting into the fun and games of things, I think we need a love interest. We need Kevin to be trying to get somewhere. It can't just be that he wants to drive the car around. So what I'm thinking here is we introduce a female character, a female love interest that invited him over to meet her family, like to have a holiday dinner with her family, and he's trying to make his way there. And I think seeing how their family interacts makes Kevin realize, oh shit, you know, my family's chaotic. They're a big ass mess. They may be loud and abrasive sometimes, but this family has a stick up their ass.
Yeah.
This family isn't fun. Like, there are elements of, you know, like, I should be more grateful for the heart of what I have. Like, on the external, it looks crazy.
That's dope.
But we love each other, you
That's
know?
dope. Yeah.
And he gets to witness that through this girl that he's in love with.
That's great. I think that element, I think aging up Kevin to preteen, even mid-teen, like now that we're kind of like at this point, I think it even makes sense to like even make Kevin 16, right? Because, you know, that could be the age that like somebody might invite you over to have things, you know, to have holiday dinner with their family. And I think it doesn't take away from all of the cool shenanigans that he has to kind of like defend the property, right? And I think it's more than Kevin kind of like being a pest or being annoying. It's almost kind of like our Kevin is a bit of a slacker, right? And you know, it's something about that slack nature. You know, we'd have to manufacture how the family got all the way to Atlanta without him, right? Like that has to make sense. And it could even be there's a big argument and blow up, and the daddy says, "Well, fine, stay." Right? You know, like okay, now that makes a little bit more sense, which is like, you know, the family wins this vacation and everybody's going down, and there's just a big blow up between the dad and the son the day of, and they both think that they're better off without the other one. They're both fed up and they're tired of it, right? And you know, and the son might say, you know, I wish you weren't my daddy. You know, I wish I didn't have to, you know, see you or something, you know, something like that. And you know what? And the dad goes, you know what? Well, you don't stay. You want to be a man? You something like stay. And then he stubbornly grabs his wife and the other family and they hop on and he leaves them there. So he's home alone on purpose versus on accident. That's an you know, it's.
And then it becomes less about, you know, them returning as quickly as possible and more about him learning what he's taking for granted.
Yes.
I love that.
That's what the story becomes, which again is not different than the story Kevin McCallister learns. He just learns it like through young eyes that you know, in this particular version, we've got the relationship between a father and a son. And, you know, especially for men, there comes a point where like they hit a fork in the road and it's like, they're no longer like daddy's little boy. I'm a man now. There's always that moment where I'm a man now. And in some cases that moment is fractious, right? Where, you know, it isn't always a parallel where you come to age with your father. sometimes that conflict, and especially if the two men are different, right? Like if the father is a hardworking man and the son is just not, like there are some diligent, loyal sons that toil the line just like their dad, and they are their father's, they're their father's apprentice in terms of, you're going to do what I did. You're good with your hands like I am. And then there's the son that doesn't like that or isn't into that. And so that kind of situation could be the situation between Kevin and his father that leads to this fractious thing that leads to them leaving Kevin at home, which leads to Kevin having to take on the mantle of responsibility that his father has to keep to keep his dad's precious, stuff. So he's got to do the dishes, and he's never done the dishes, and he's got to take the trash out like his daddy always took the trash out. He's got to do these things that his father did that he took for granted, that now he sees just how important it was and how it impacted his life. And now he has a sense of pride in it that he wants to defend. I think we add that to the love interest, the family, the dinner, I may not love them, but they the family that I got, and at least they're better than these people. And now I think you got yourself a good movie.
For sure. And I want to add on to what you're saying, because I love what you're saying about him recognizing his father's choices. And I think in those choices his father makes, because you're talking about him doing, dishes and laundry, he is a very present and dependable force in his household. I think to add on to that, his son thinks he's a simp. His son has fallen prey to the propaganda out there about how men should treat their families, and more specifically their wives, the women in their lives. I think his son has this image of what a real man is that's very future adjacent.
Yep.
Versus his father being more of a Russell Wilson.
Yes.
And
yes.
He has to learn in real time what it looks like, even with another family, like the girl that can be his love interest, right? Her family doesn't need to be, extremely well off, nor do they have to be poor. But I think it would impress on him a lot to witness a father who is very distant, both emotionally and physically distant. Like, while he's there at that dinner, he's not really there. His wife tries to communicate with him. He's not really listening. Like, he gets to see in real time the impact of that around the table.
That's dope.
And then he starts to realize, like, oh, some people don't have this. Like, even if his girl ended up being the one crying on his shoulder about it, because look, her Christmas dinner or holiday dinners look very different than his. The food probably ain't even good.
Yeah. And it's probably like little manners, like little things that they do in the McCallister household, which is like nobody starts eating until we all have our plates, right? Whereas at the other house, like it's just, just people
we do what we do,
chomping, right? We and so he could see these subtle differences that he thought were simpish and squarish in comparison, and it could be, there's different ways of like, this girl and her house and his perception of them. Like maybe there's a scene like a little bit earlier on where like that dad is like picking her up from school and he's like, man, look at his car, look at his, look at his clothes, like look at his J's, like, whatever it is. And he's like, see, like, that's how it's supposed to be. And then he finally gets access to it, to your point, and you realize like, but there's no love here. There's no love here.
So I want to ask, now that we've really nailed down our act 1, our act 2, or even our act 3, who do you see in these roles? And did you struggle with your casting?
I'm going to be casting on the fly, but I've got really solid suggestions for this. Now that we've made these guys preteens, teenagers, I think we have a lot more people to work with. So you had mentioned Miles Brown. And I think that Miles Brown is perfect for this.
And for those of you who don't know, Miles Brown is the youngest brother from Blackish. So he's the little one that was a twin to Marseille Martin. Who are you seeing for Harry, the father?
So
or
for
I'm sorry, not Harry. Not Harry ain't the dad.
Yeah.
My apologies. Who do you see as Peter?
Oh, now I have to think about this a little bit in real time because I wasn't thinking about casting that particular character. So I need somebody that could be fatherly, stern, but square. You have somebody in mind?
Well, you know who I go with for those roles.
Who's that?
I'm pretty consistent throughout the films we've reviewed thus far. I love Sterling K. Brown.
Yep.
And it's, he's really, Sterling, if you're watching this, and I hope you are, really proud of you. You have solidified yourself as the sort of nerdy, geeky Black dude. In anything that can, great job. You should be proud of yourself. And also just like a really, really good guy. Like he plays good guy, good dad, good husband really well. So, and I feel like I have a bias. I have favorites because I also casted Regina Hall as Kate.
Yeah.
The mom.
But it's kind of like if the shoe fits, wear it kind of thing. And I think he could do that well because he does emotion so well. And so he's
who else though? Sorry to cut you off because I want to give more Black men who act an opportunity in our movies because we cast in Sterling a lot.
Right.
He's getting a lot of our bread right now, Tone. So what do you think about Michael Ealy?
That could be an interesting. Yeah. I like Michael Ealy. I almost maybe like Michael Ealy as the father that like Kevin is looking up to.
Idolizing
in that house. What about Brian Tyree Henry?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love Brian Tyree Henry. And he would kill you're talking about for Peter McCallister, right?
Yes.
The dad?
The dad.
Yeah.
Yep.
1000%. Sorry, Sterling. You got to go. We have casted Brian.
Yeah.
He got enough of our films already, though.
Right.
He's a favorite for us at this point. So, yeah, definitely Tyree, Brian, yeah.
Who would you cast as the mom, as the role of Kate, Catherine O'Hara?
Opposite. It's crazy because now it is no longer Regina Hall if the father
is Brian Tyree Henry.
Yeah. No, it's no longer Regina Hall because they need to make sense age-wise. Not that Regina looks 22, but I would say, what is her name? She was in the Creed movies.
Oh, I know you're talking about. What am I drawing a blank on her name?
I'm drawing a blank too.
I got it right here. Tessa Thompson.
Yes. I would see Tessa Thompson in that role, opposite Brian Tyree Henry.
So, when this movie was designed to be funnier, I was going to cast Robin Thede from the Black Woman Sketch Show. But now I want to put her in the house in the other house with Michael Ealy, right? Yes. Like I want to put them together because when Kevin goes to that house, like I want that shit to be hilariously bad, right?
Yes, like, she's drunk. She's sad, but she's also like really passive aggressive and like, it's so nice to have a young man in the house that holds a door.
Right.
I can't remember the last time a door was held for me. Honey. Did you hear it? He held the door. Isn't that polite? That's super polite. Super polite. Good job, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then like undoes like one of the buttons on her shirt, right? Like, like just that kind of vibe, like that kind of shit. Yeah, like perfect, like perfect,
because
perfect,
he has
perfect.
manners. He still picked up his manners from his dad. It's not like he's coming over there
Exactly.
trying to be, cool. Like he
Right.
knows how to
Somebody's
make.
not. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So now it's just really like finding like a good compliment as his mom. Like finding, and I want somebody who's, I mean, I could look at what's that girl, Sky Thompson, who was also on
Ooh.
like age wise. I think she could. I want the role to kind of be comedic because Brian Tyree Henry is going to be stern. So like I need like a frantic mom that's kind of like getting shit done on the road. That's like funny and be popping off and all of that. Like I need that kind of energy.
Oh, I know who. I
Who?
know who. It's I love this woman's acting. I think she's so good. I think she recently got married not too long ago. I believe her name starts with a B. Um, she's not in the show Harlem, but it's another show that's similar to
Power?
Harlem.
Is she in Power?
Um, not Power. Let me find out real quick.
Okay.
I feel like her name is Bree, but I know it isn't. It's not Bree. Harlem TV shows similar. What is the name of that show? Run the World. Okay, her name is Brescia Webb.
Brescia Webb.
Look up her face and you'll
Yep.
immediately
Yes.
recognize.
Yeah, she was in what's that movie she did? She did
did
one with
Meet the
Mike Epps.
Blacks.
Yes, that's it. Yep. Perfect.
And A Fall from
Perfect.
Grace and Night School.
Perfect. Yes.
Tiffany Haddish would be good in Robin Thede role as well as like the drunk, annoying, like very. I don't know that she would have the subtlety that Robin would play that character with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no shade to Tiffany, I love Tiffany, but I think Tiffany is real good in that like extra type of role.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I feel like it could be interesting if you cast Tiffany as one of the goons.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God, with Kevin Hart and Little Rel Howery.
Boom. Like one of the goons trying to get access to the car.
That was smart. That was smart. I did not even consider that. That's so smart.
Because the goons were the only things that we hadn't cast yet. Like we've got our situation, we've got our family, we've got our circumstance, we have the morality, we have where the contrast that Kevin is going to need, and so kind of like the third act is. Now Kevin, maybe on his way home back from that dinner, now Kevin understands. Now he understands what his dad was talking about. Now he understands pride. And now he's defending almost his daddy's legacy. Like the car is like a metaphor for everything that his dad stands for. Like the car is clean like his dad. The car is well maintenance like his dad. The car is dependable like his dad, right? And so
the car
now
is his dad.
Yes, basically, right? Yeah. And so now like all you really have to do is work with a good stunt coordinator to put these would-be, grand theft some grand theft thieves through some ringers, get some bumps, having them stunt people earn their money. Our Kevin drives them away, Everything is safe. He wakes up Christmas morning and Kevin and his dad look at each other with new eyes. Right?
And I think Kevin needs a friend. Kevin needs a friend whose family isn't close knit, isn't really celebrating the holidays, maybe is unable to for a variety of different reasons, whether financial or otherwise. That he can have partner with him to kind of create havoc for the people. Yeah,
I agree. I 100% agree, and And in an even touching moment, like they include that kid in their Christmas Day celebration, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, because he held down the fort with him. So it doesn't make sense for that kid to have spent the night and just kind of be the third wheel in this family reunion.
Mm-hmm.
But it does kind of make sense where after Kevin and his dad have that hug and his mom have that hug, and Kevin can even tell, you know, his dad that, you know, James or whoever it was kind of like helped. And
James is a good name. I like
yeah,
James.
you know, James.
And I think James is one of the dope boys. James is one of the guys that doesn't think he needs that. He plays it cool. Like his family doesn't, you know, they don't do that, and he doesn't care because it's never been his thing. It's not his speed. He don't do Christmas. But after all of the stuff that they go through while his parents are, you know, not there, after they save the car and his dad's legacy and all of that good shit, he's ringing the bell at the end of the movie.
I love it.
He pulled up.
And what's good is that you could do something earlier in the movie where maybe even the dad is like, stay away from that boy. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like stay away. But he's like, and that could be even a part of his riff. Like, no, you don't understand him, right? Like, you know, like he's my friend. Like, you know, he's had my back. He's loyal. He's more loyal than you've ever been to me, right? Like, you know, da 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 da. Or some, you know, some, you know, kind of talk, and then ultimately, like the father's judgment of others, like again, like everybody's clocks get recalibrated in this, and so, you know, the father is not without flaws either, even though he has all these good things, but like everybody comes face to face with who they've been and get challenged to be something else, and in that, like we open the door to, you know, extend the family, extend the love. I think it 100% works. I think it is tight enough in terms of story, and I think it has the potential to be very hilarious because, you know, what we get in that other family and the shenanigans that our family get into on the road and the stupidity of our goons, like all, you know, that's all rolled up in a message about love and family and forgiveness. I think it works.
Yeah, I agree. So who do you see directing this film?
This is interesting. This is so interesting because just give me 1 second. 1 second.
And while you do that, I'll throw mine out there. I'm between two.
Who's yours?
I'm between Dion Taylor, who is a self-taught creative genius. He has worked on several films, the most popular of which being the film you mentioned earlier. He did Meet the Blacks.
Yep.
And he also did Fatale. He did The Intruder. And then another person who I think would be a great director for this film would be who did Lottery Ticket? Eric White back in 2010. He has that was his directorial debut, Lottery Ticket. And the reason I'm thinking about Lottery Ticket is because I love the way that was shot, the way that he captured certain moments, right? Like when he's trying to escape the town, basically with his lottery ticket because he didn't won, and everybody is on his ass. Like he just did that in such a phenomenal way, and I really felt just as like just claustrophobic as the main character did. So I think Eric White would do a great job of showcasing that in this context.
Once again, we are on the same frequency. The name that I came up with is a director by the name of Tim Story. Now, Tim Story, right? So Tim Story directed The First Barbershop. He did Think Like a Man 2. Both ride-alongs. He directed The Blackening. Like,
that's the perfect combination of the two I just said.
Yep.
Tim Story, Point Blank, period. Yes.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah.
Because when we were imagining this movie, I like yourself, I was seeing it through the lens of a lottery ticket. Like, this is what this movie looks like. This is what that pace. This is what the pace. And then I was like, yeah, like a movie like Ride Along and all of those. So I think like somebody like Tim Story is we can count on our investment getting up. We can count on getting a movie that's edited well, acted well, shot well, like all of the above.
And beautifully colored. I think what all of the directors we've mentioned have in common is that they really know, and it's not that they're the ones coloring it, but they have choices. You know, they're making these choices about how dynamically to color grade these films. And I think that this is going to be a film that needs to be very colorful. It has to pack a punch. It can't be like, you know, toned down, because you do see that from time to time in film, whether it's a horror genre or something like that. And I just think that this is something that needs to be very bright, just as bright as the holiday season. You know?
Yes. And that's the great part about it. Like, our family receives holiday cheer time and time again to get home. And it could be that, like, even our dad is cold and griff. You know, people only look after each other. You know what I mean? Like, people don't care like they used to, you know, and he could be, and what he finds on the road to get back is time and time again, people do care. You know, people do open up their homes to this family trying to get home, or put a couple of dollars in their pocket, and he comes across some characters that help him out like along the way. And I think all of those are opportunities to like make you smile and make you like feel good about like, no, like this is Christmas and we love each other at Christmas. So I think that like we can infuse all of that and make it a really good, you know, make it a really good kind of remix to, you know, on a classic film.
You know, this is getting bad. I'm getting to the point where I want to write every single film that we're discussing. Like, and I have Final Draft, so it's not far fetched. I'm getting to a point where like, and you know, I'm booked. I'm booked right now. Like I'm writing on other shows and stuff. They ain't on TV yet, but you know, I don't need nobody getting mad at me because you sending me on a wishful thinking journey with these films. Like we need to. I might have to write some of these, and we got to pitch them.
I mean, I feel like each one of these movies, if fleshed out, like is and the thing about it is that you know how the studios are with IP, right? So it just goes like, we're using the same IP, right? Like, you know, you don't have to license anything new, right? Like, you know, we're taking the IP and we're reimagining it. I mean, like I keep telling y'all, enjoy this podcast while you can, because there may come a moment where it'd be like, listen, the time that we would spend recording, we spend in writing and we putting together
and then filming.
And then filming, and then it'd be somebody reviewing our stuff. That's the Christmas dream.
I don't think we'll ever stop doing this podcast because this is too fun. This is way too much fun.
It's fun. So that was Home Alone. I think I want to squeeze one more little Christmas movie in before we get to some of the classics. Here's some of the things we got your notes, we got your comments. We've got The Notebook. We've got Pretty Woman. We've got Groundhog Day. We've got Ghost. We've got Bridesmaid. The Breakfast Club. Barbie. Dumb and Dumber. Just a bunch of different movies that Never Been Kissed. The Craft. Ooh, I can't wait to do The Craft with you. The Truman Show. So these are, you know, we're literally going to line them up. Keep giving us your submissions. We'll get them on the list, and you know, we'll crank them out. So as always, go ahead, Jay.
Before we check out, I want to try something different this episode. If you're down, Tom.
Okay, let's do it.
I want to encourage you guys, if you're going to make a recommendation, right, for the next film that we should review for this Christmas theme that we're doing, okay? Give us a Christmas movie. Give us your ideal cast, and we will rate that casting.
I love it.
10.
Perfect.
I want to see what y'all come up with, because y'all be coming at us in the comments talking about,
I can't believe y'all didn't do.
So we want to hear your thoughts. We want to know what you're thinking, and we will rate it 1 through 10, and we'll call you out in the next video. Okay, just let us know what you're thinking. So good.
Okay, that's the time that we have for today. Your boy Tone. That's your girl Jay. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Peace.
See ya.
That was good.
BlackBusters.